Hello, my name is Hoor Bhanpuri, and I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois Partnership leading the initiative of the SAT implementation in the state of Illinois. For the last year and a half, I've had the great pleasure of working on the implementation in the state of Michigan and now coming to the state of Illinois to be able to really provide the opportunities for all students. It's with great humility that we enter into this state to do this work. We recognize this as a large sea change for many of you. And it's really important to us that we work with you directly, as well as key organizations across the state, to really get the message out of what the exam is, what is it that we're doing as an organization, all the key pieces to the exam, the support mechanisms in place, but more importantly, be able to tell you directly what's on this exam and what does this look like. And we're confident that if we can work with you together, that we can make great advances in achievement for all students across the state. So let me walk through a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today. I'd like to review the entire SAT suite of assessments. What are the different components, the scoring, the grading, how do we look at benchmarks? I want to be able to talk to you about our first-in-the-world partnership with Khan Academy, AP Potential, scholarships, and fee waivers. I want to highlight and showcase what we're doing with our brand new data portal and the information that's available to you, because it's going to come at you in a way that you've never seen it before, and the resources available to administrators, counselors, and to teachers. So let me just jump right in here. This wheel is emblematic of what we're doing as an organization. And I always like to start by showcasing what we're doing as an organization so you can get some thought into why these assessments were developed in such a way. For far too long, assessments have been created in vacuums, in the sense that we've not really shared to students or to the public how we develop these exams or what's in these exams or how they're developed. It's almost been this sort of game to try to understand what's in it. And that doesn't need to happen anymore. We've developed the entire blueprint of the SAT exam. The entire exam, the guts of the exam, if you will, we've made public for almost 2 years. We want everyone to be able to know what is exactly within each one of these exams. The research methodology, the content, the test specifications. This was incredibly important to us to create the most focused set of assessments ever created in the most transparent way possible. All of the assessments in the SAT suite of assessments are all aligned and built on the same framework. This way you will have confidence when students are taking one exam to the next that the growth and academic performance are aligned to the SAT. But we want to be able to give students an exam worthy of the time worth taking. And it's incredibly important to us that we design a set of assessments using the best research possible, because more research in the field of college and career readiness has taken place over the last 10, 15 years. To embed that with the expectations of post-secondary, with alignment to what students are learning every day in the classroom, allows us to create the most focused set of assessments aligned to the standards that are incredibly important for post-secondary success. But all of that is for naught unless we really try to connect it to academic learning. And that's the real change with what we're doing with the SAT and the SAT suite of assessments. Our first-in-the-world partnership with Khan Academy is revolutionary. And it's revolutionary in a few different ways. One, 100% for free. Every student will have access to the best high-quality academic preparation that also happens to be test practice. So it shouldn't matter what zip code you're born in, what side of the street you come from, or where you live, to have the best, the most engaging, first-in-the-world, high-quality practice and preparation. We are so excited and delighted to be rolling out our partnership with Khan Academy, and I'm excited to talk to you and show you a little bit more in the presentation to come. College opportunity. Every single student is worthy of an opportunity, and we need to connect those bridges to every student. And I'm excited to show you what we're doing with our academic fee waivers for students for taking the SAT multiple times. Excited to share with you and talk to you about the college application fee waivers for income-eligible students. That gives them 4 opportunities to apply to college, then covers the cost of applying to college for free. And to be able to connect students with those opportunities that they so rightly deserve. And ultimately, how do we connect this all to college and career success? That if we're confident that students are matriculating and performing and doing well, that they're ready for the world, whether it be for college, whether it be for career, whether it be for tech, whether it be entering in or working for their mother and father in one of their stores. It's really important to us that every single student be prepared for what lies ahead. And should they choose to go back to college or take a 2-year college or program, few years after high school, that they still have the skills ready to be successful. The suite of assessments. So we've built the entire SAT suite of assessments on the same empirical research framework. The same content and skills found on the PSAT 8-9 are the same skills and content found on the SAT, scaffolded to meet grade level appropriate challenging work. The test reflects meaningful, engaging, and challenging work students can find in their classrooms every single day, aligned, most importantly, to the state standards in Illinois. So let me talk to you a little bit about the 8 key changes to the SAT and the SAT suite of assessments. So the SAT was notorious for having words that students would have to memorize on flashcards, such as deleterious, loquacious, fantastic words in the English language, but have really little purpose served when students went to post-secondary or beyond or into a career. And so we asked ourselves, what is it that we really want students to be able to learn, and what do we want them to be able to do? So we wanted to really think about this subcontext or this skill in a very important way, and we're calling it relevant words in context. So let me give you an example. President Lincoln in the Gettysburg Address uses the word dedicated 6 different times, 4 of them with distinctly different meanings. What we want students to be able to do and decipher is, what is it that an author is saying, and how are they using words that students are very familiar with? Because it begins to separate author's tone, idea, and more importantly, it helps students better understand and conceptualize what it is that the author is saying. This is an essential post-secondary level skill, but more importantly, this is a skill that students will need to be able to do in life as they become lifelong learners. Second, command of evidence. We want students to be able to demonstrate that they understand and they know how to apply the work that they've just done. So for example, students will be asked to read a passage, interpret a chart or a graph, and answer a set of questions. They would be asked to perhaps maybe refer back to particular lines or passages, or look at a different issue within a chart and be able to answer some questions. We want them to really demonstrate that they have that command of evidence of what they're being asked to demonstrate and to do. The essay. In 2005, when we last redesigned the SAT, we made the essay a mandatory part of the exam. And in rethinking that, as we redesigned the entire assessment, we decided to do something slightly different. So first, the essay is completely separate from the multiple choice section of the exam. Now, part of the state of Illinois, our contractual bid with the state of Illinois is to offer just the multiple choice part of the SAT. We will continue discussions with the State Department to figure out different implementations in different areas of offering the essay portion, but at this time, students will just be taking the multiple choice part of the exam. But let me talk about the essay, because students may want to take that on a National Administration Day. The essay we've moved from 25 minutes to 50 minutes. And we did this so this could give students the more authentic time to write college-level type work. Students need the time to think, to read, to outline their work, and to write in a meaningful way. We've also decided to try to do something a little bit different instead of just asking students about their opinions and then write upon a particular piece of work. Now students will have source analysis essay writing. We will input the source, and students will take the time to answer a really set of defined questions that we've provided for them. The rubric to the entire essay has been made public, as well as the prompt of what students would be expected to do will be made public. Students can also offer their opinions to the subject level matter at any given point in time, but we're offering the guidance of what we'd like students to do source analysis essay writing. Math. Math will be focused in 3 key areas: harder algebra, problem solving and data analysis, and passport to advanced mathematical topics. We were going to define a much more narrow piece of math of what students need to be able to do to demonstrate post-secondary level readiness success. And there's more information that we'll dive into about the deeper contents within those areas. But algebra, problem solving and data analysis, and passport to advanced math. When redesigning this exam, we can also take into account some of the best work that's already taking place and what students are learning right now in the classroom. We can embed the exam with problems that are grounded in what we're calling real-world context. The same sorts of problems and situations and topics that students are learning and dealing with every day in their classroom, we can embed and make part of the SAT. We have 2 new strands that run across the SAT set of assessments. One is an analysis of science, and the second is an analysis in social science. There are not particular sections of the exams that students will open to that will say this is analysis of science or this is analysis of social science. However, those two content areas will be embedded across the exam in a couple different ways, and when we get to some of the scoring features, I'll be sure to show you and highlight what that looks like. I gave you the example of the Gettysburg Address, but every SAT exam will have at least what we're calling one founding document or great global conversation. Thoughts on Social Justice or Freedom by Mahatma Gandhi, Letters from a Birmingham Jail by Dr. King, Federalist Papers 51, 52, and a couple other resources, and to just give an example of some of the information that will be embedded in part of the SAT. No prior knowledge is ever needed to do any of the work on the SAT, as this is not just a national but international exam. Wouldn't expect students in foreign countries to know what the Federalist Papers are. But could they do the objective or the work, such as the example of analyzing the word dedicated in the Gettysburg Address, without having known what the context of that information came from? We think that students can do that, and so we can use some of the greatest literature available to us and embed it as part of the SAT. And last but not least, we are moving to rights-only scoring. So this will make students very happy and will help clear up a lot of the information about the SAT. In the past, we used to have a quarter-point deduction with all the assessments as part of the SAT as well as the PSAT. Students would tell us that it didn't really matter to them, but at the end of the day, they would say, I'm not exactly sure how your scoring works in a quarter-point deduction. How do I try my best? So we said, you know what, we can make this change. We did this with our advanced placement programs and that set of assessment, and so now the SAT as well as the SAT suite of assessments will go to what we're calling rights-only scoring. There's no penalty for incorrect answers, and from the 5 answer choices, there will be 4. So we encourage students to absolutely try their best, take the best test-taking strategies that they've been learning throughout their high school career, and go ahead and apply that as part of the SAT. So the scoring format with the SAT. We are now moving back to a score of 1,600. In 2005, when we redesigned the exam, we went to a total of 2,400 when the essay was a mandatory part. Now the essay is a completely separate part of the exam and has a completely different scoring rubric and method of being scored, which has no effect on the multiple choice section of the exam, which now we have 2 sections called the evidence-based reading and writing and math, from 200 to 800. The combination of both those 2 section scores gives us a total score out of 1,600. So let me see if I can break this down a little bit further for you. We are going to be providing more data than we ever had for both students as well as teachers and administrators. There will be a total score, 2 section scores, 3 cross-test scores, 2 cross-test scores, which is the science and social science, and 7 sub-scores. So let me kind of show you in the next diagram of how this looks. So let me start right in the middle, if I could, with the 3 test scores. There's a reading, writing, language, and math. On exam day, students will open up their test booklet to reading, writing, language, and math as part of the multiple choice. Within the reading and writing language portion of the exam, we will find these new sub-scores that we'll be reporting data on. If we're telling students that this is really essential information that students need to be able to demonstrate mastery on or know where they are in regard to these components, then we should be reporting these scores back to students as well as to administrators and teachers to use this information in an informative instructional approach. So words in context and command of evidence will be found in the reading and writing language portion of the exam. Expression of ideas and standard English conventions will only be found in the writing and language portion of the exam. So students don't have to be worried in the reading portion of the exam, am I going to be having grammar-related questions? It's only going to be found in the writing language portion of the exam. Math will be math. However, we will be providing 3 new sub-scores as well. The Heart of Algebra, Problem Solving and Data Analysis, and Passport to Advanced Math. The only exception here is on the PSAT 8-9, we're not assessing students in Passport to Advanced Math. However, on the PSAT 10 and the PSAT and MSQT and the SAT, we will be reporting that data out. I did mention that there was 2 new cross-test scores, science and social science. So as you can see, those 2 strands run across the reading, writing, and language and math portion of the exams. What we will be doing is actually pulling questions from math, writing and language, and reading to provide 2 new sub-scores for analysis in science and analysis in social science. The number of questions, the percentage of those questions can all be found in the blueprint of the SAT. All of those scores together get funneled up into two main section scores, a math score and an evidence-based reading and writing score from 200 to 800. And the combination of those two scores gives us a score out of 1600. Now, we're working with colleges and universities all across the state as well as throughout the country of how to use and interpret all of these scores. Because everything that you see here will go on a student's score report and be sent to colleges for college admission purposes. Now, colleges have been very clear with us that they're very comfortable understanding the total score as well as the two section scores of evidence-based reading and writing and math. They're looking forward to working with the College Board and looking at more data in years to come to understand how some of the other pieces could be perhaps used for placement, scholarship purposes, and so on and so forth. But we're working on that with colleges and universities. But they feel very, very comfortable with the information that we're providing and the data layout that's going to be given to them. So let me walk through a little bit of what these exams are. So the PSAT 8-9. The PSAT 8-9 is the same exam for 8th graders and 9th graders. However, we have individual benchmarks aligned to the SAT for 8th graders as well as for 9th graders. It's really designed to be a check-in, where students are and how well are they performing at that point in time. The PSAT 10 and the PSAT NMSQT. Let me start with the PSAT NMSQT. I know it's a mouthful, but it's a National Merit School qualifying test that many of you are very familiar with that 11th graders take predominantly to qualify for national merit purposes. However, what we've been able to do is create another exam for the spring called the PSAT 10, which is the same exact test. There's nothing different in terms of the content, the format, the timing. It's literally just a different form of the exam, but just for 10th graders, so we can provide spring administration for 10th graders. Membership, many of you have asked for a spring level assessment for 10th graders, and this is that answer to that. Now, the PSAT and MSQT has been taken by 10th and 11th graders in the fall for the last 50 years. And this exam last year was taken by just about 4 million students. So we're really excited to be able to have this offering to provide even more data and more information back, but allow different districts and schools different implementation models for what works best for your students. So as we thought about the entire assessment system, it was important to us to define a brand new set of college and career readiness benchmarks. We've now been able to use a more national standard of what college and career readiness means by defining college and career readiness as a 75% likelihood of earning a C or higher in your first year credit-bearing course in that same subject area. Now, in order to meet that 75% criteria, a student has to meet the benchmark in both the evidence-based reading and writing and the math section of the exam. It's the combined score that gives us the confidence to be able to provide students with that 75% likelihood of earning a C or higher. The PSAT 8-9 will provide benchmarks and norms for both 8th and 9th graders, and the PSAT 10 as well as the PSAT and MSQT exam will be able to provide the same benchmarks for 10th and 11th graders as well, all in alignment to the actual SAT readiness benchmarks. Vertical score scale. So as we've designed this entire new system, we thought what would be the best way to highlight academic growth year over year. And by developing all of our assessments on a vertical growth scale model, we'll be able to demonstrate to those students taking from one assessment to the next, year over year, we'll be able to demonstrate year over year growth and provide that information back to students and back to administrators and teachers across districts across the state. But we're able to provide more data back on total score as well as on the 3 cross-test scores in terms of vertical growth year over year. So let me give you an example of how this works. And if we look at just the section score right on the top, you're able to see the PSAT 8-9, the PSAT 10, and the PSAT and MSQT, and the SAT. You'll also notice that towards the end, not all of them align themselves perfectly to the SAT, and that's because we're measuring content on PSAT 8-9 that's still not covered yet on the SAT. So this way we'll be able to show how students are progressing and growing year over year from assessment to assessment. So we're looking at a section score. So let's say, for example, we're looking at math. The PSAT 8-9 has a score range of 120 to 720. Let's say I scored a 400 on the PSAT 8-9 in math. I'll have information back to where I am in regard to my benchmark, where am I in regard to my percentile, as well as to other state and level national student participation rankings. However, if I was to actually sit and take the SAT that very day as a 9th grader, I most likely would have scored a 400 on the actual math section of the exam. So at any given point in time on any one of these assessments, a student will know exactly where they are in relation to their end goal to the SAT. And so by developing and putting all of our assessments on this vertical growth scale, we're really excited to provide more information to where students are, as well as provide educators with information in terms of growth and benchmarking from year to year. We'll be able to see the same year-over-year growth from those 3 cross-test scores, the reading, writing, language, and math, as well as the composite score from each one of the exams year over year. But all of this work is not worth anything unless we try to connect students to success. And for far too long, opportunity and assessment have been completely disconnected ideas. We've been given students back these static reports, the paper copies. It shows them, outlines a lot of the work that they need to do, but it doesn't provide them the guidance on how to actually go about doing this work. So our first-in-the-world partnership with Khan Academy is our way of revolutionizing the way that we think about practice and test preparation. What you see here is the official SAT practice. This is a snapshot of actual Khan Academy when you log into the system. We know the old SAT has now been retired, so all the information in Khan Academy will all be connected to the new redesigned assessment. We have over 4,000 practice problems on Khan Academy, personalized tutorials, official SAT practice, and full-length exams that I'll talk about in a few minutes. But it's important for you to also know that Khan Academy is working directly with College Board test development writers on developing questions that go into Khan Academy. Everything into Khan Academy from the SAT is 100% authentic by SAT and College Board. So all the practice, all the material is coming directly from us to provide students with the best guidance and practice that has ever been created before. So let me give you an idea of how this works very quickly. So let's use Jeff and his path to his SAT success. When Jeff logs into his Khan Academy account, he'll be asked to take about a 45 to 50-minute diagnostic in the reading, writing, language, and math sections of the exam. And this diagnostic is the only place where it's actually an adaptive way of learning, so we can really think about and place students where they are academically. So students who are right in the middle, we can give them the proper support and tools. Those are students who need a little bit more hand-holding at the bottom, and those students who may be performing at a higher level. But the adaptive nature of the diagnostic allows us to really capture where students are academically at that particular moment in time. Now, students may see problems that look really hard and some things that they really know how to do and would consider easy. But it's important that students really do their very, very best so we can provide this customized academic learning roadmap, which becomes the result of the diagnostic. Once students have their plan in place, they shouldn't spend more than 20 to 25 minutes every other day in actual Khan Academy. Maybe they do 5 to 8 problems every day, but they're 5 to 8 problems that are really aligned to their academic needs and ability for them to grow. And what will happen is that as students progress in Khan Academy and finish up their customized work plan that's been developed for them based upon their own academic needs, once they've completed all of that work, Khan Academy will suggest that that student is ready to take one of 4 full-length SAT exams in Khan Academy. If the student can then take the exam online on Khan Academy, they'll be able to complete all the sections. Now, when a student is taking each of the sections, they have to commit that full time. So, for example, the reading section of the exam is 65 minutes. So students have to commit that 65 minutes in order to complete that entire section, because we're going to be able to give back a score to that student. Once we are able to do that, we can take the results of the practice exam, feed that back into a student's account, and update their academic learning profile with more relevant information based upon the results of the exam. However, we know that students can't always sit in front of a computer and have 65 minutes to be able to do this. And students in the state of Illinois will be taking paper pencil SAT exams. So students might want a more familiar experience of how they go about doing that. We're also very conscious about equity. And not every student and everywhere across the state has access to high-functioning internet or Wi-Fi. But we do know that just about every household has some kind of smart device or the ability to go to school or to the library to get a tablet or a phone or something to that extent to do some problems and to practice on. So when students are able to take their SAT exam online in Khan Academy and complete all the sections and get the scores back, this would be the same exam that students would be able to print off and do paper pencil. When we move as an organization to provide the SAT online, it will look very, very closely to what students are experiencing and using in Khan Academy. So students can be very comfortable about how the exam looks and how it operates and it works, and gives us a couple years to really build up how we can do this in a very successful way. But when students are taking the online portion of the practice exam where they print it out, it is the same exact form of the exam. There's no difference between the two. So this way, students, when they're uploading scores and they're practicing, are all doing it from the same exact exam. The daily practice. We want to make sure that every single student has high-quality practice. And if every student doesn't have the ability to have high-functioning Wi-Fi or internet in their home, we're very confident that providing this mobile app and the resources provided in the mobile app will help all students achieve their goals. So we've now created what's called the daily practice for the new SAT. And you really have to search for it with that specification, daily practice for the new SAT. Otherwise, you'll come up with so many other practices that aren't the one that I'm about to talk to you about. Available both in the iOS Apple Store as well as in Google Play. So let me show you a little bit about how it works. The question of the day, the SAT question of the day, is now moving from online to this daily practice app. But more importantly, we got to this new feature which we're calling Scan and Score. So let me talk to you a little bit about how this works. So as I mentioned, that the four Khan Academy, or the four SAT exams, on Khan Academy, students can take them online. But we also know that students may want to print them out and do them in the way that they more traditionally take them. Perhaps the students want to practice them at their dining room table, in the kitchen table at their house, after school, before school, study hall. But they want to practice on paper pencil. And we know that. So students can download a hard copy PDF version of the exam, as well as the answer sheets or the scoring guide, to that exam. Once a student completes that exam, again, they have their time. This is their practice to be able to do it in that way. They will go to the Scan and Score feature. What they will then begin to do, what they're able to do then, is to take their answer sheets, as you can see here from the diagram, and take a picture through that app of each of their of the four answer sheets that we've provided for the students. And we're pretty good at even recognizing when students when they've kind of messed up a little bit. For example, if they've not completed a particular question, or they've circled in two answer choices for one question, we can go back and say, this is your practice. Go ahead, take your best shot. There's no penalty for incorrect answers or guessing. Go ahead, give it your best shot. This is your practice. Once a student has taken the picture of all four of those exams, they hit Score Test. And instantaneously, they will be given a score from their practice test. They will have their total score out of 1,600. They'll have each of the section scores, evidence-based reading, writing, and math. Then they will be able to see each question from each three components of the exam, from the reading, the writing, and the math portion of the exam. The X will indicate that the question was incorrect, and the check mark indicates that it was correct. However, that little caret or that little arrow is really important, because if a student clicks on that caret, that question will now open up in that student's phone. They'll be able to see that entire question, the answer explanation to that question, and provide feedback to that student. Now, a student at this point in time has the opportunity to then link their practice exam from the paper pencil back into their Khan Academy account to update their academic profile so that a new academic roadmap will be updated with the content based upon this practice exam. This customization is what we're looking for to really help students prepare themselves and to learn. We've always said in the history of the SAT that there's no way to really truly practice without taking the best academic courses that you possibly can take. This is a little bit different because in addition to taking the highest level academic courses that you can take that your school offers for you, you will really begin to pinpoint where your academic faults and strengths are in relation to the SAT. So you can have very focused practice. We know that students left to themselves will continue to take practice exam after practice exam, and they wonder to themselves, why are my scores not improving? Or they hit a certain plateau in either content or score and are unfamiliar with the resources available to help them break through. Our goal was to change all of that. By creating these tools, we can empower students to be able to understand where they are academically. We are now working with educators to kind of develop a more back-end view of what the resources, the tools, how students are performing in Khan Academy. But our goal out of the gate was to get this right for young people, so all students have access to this. Most importantly, all of these tools, everything that I just shared with you, is 100% for free. So we are delighted in the next few months as we go across the state to really show you how all of this stuff works. But all of this information is completely free and able to use at this point in time. Expanding opportunities. So when students take any one of these College Board assessments and they enter it into Student Search, they are automatically connected to some of the largest organizations providing resources to students. So instead of these organizations having to, or students, having to go out to these organizations and apply, now we've built a bridge where these organizations can actually come to students should they have met certain metrics that these organizations are looking for. From National Merit, United Negro College Fund, the American Indian Graduate Center, Asian and Pacific Islander American Scholarship Fund, Hispanic Scholarship Fund, and Jack Hancock Foundation, particularly for low-income students, they can reach out to students, provide them the resources, and then have students take that next step, as opposed to a bridge never being built and students having to cross that bridge and finding it for themselves. AP potential. With all of the assessments, students will, or administrators as well as students will get back information and data of where they are in regard to advanced placement. And very quickly, what AP Potential is that it lets us look at a lot of data and information to provide students as well as administrators and teachers information of where students are academically in preparation for doing well, not just in an AP course, but on an AP exam. We know that there's a lot of what I like to call academic character that students need to be successful in any post-secondary level type classroom work. However, we can use real data from students who have taken the PSAT in the past, have also gone on to take an AP course and an AP exam, and use that data to provide a probability of academic success for every student. And AP Potential really allows us to be able to look at a data standpoint to be used in conjunction with teacher recommendation and counselor recommendation to think about advancing more opportunities for advanced placement, maybe perhaps breaking down some barriers if that's a challenge for you in moving forward with increasing access into AP, but providing more guidance and more information to where students are academically, and providing administrators and teachers information around AP to maybe even grow AP in the future. All students in the state of Illinois who take the state level SAT will also be able to benefit from the SAT fee waivers if you're an income eligible student. And we're really, really excited about this new opportunity that we've been providing for students. Historically, in the past, we've always provided fee waivers for students to take the SAT should they qualify. But what we're doing now is when a student takes the exam on a fee waiver, we're giving that student directly in their College Board account 4 college application fee waivers to cover the cost of applying to college. That $25, $35, $45, $55 cost, a student automatically gets that fee waiver in their College Board account that they can either print out or they can send electronically when they apply to schools. So we want those students to apply to perhaps that 3rd or 4th school that might be really the best fit for that young person, or maybe actually be best fit and scholarship. We want students in both urban and rural areas all across the state to really think about the opportunities that are available to them. And we know that many students haven't ventured out more than 25 to 50 miles from where they live. This will give students more opportunity and more idea of opportunities available to them at the post-secondary level. So it's giving those students directly 4 college application fee waivers in addition to 2 additional times to take the SAT at no cost with the fee waiver. In addition to that, when students take the exam on a fee waiver, every student across the state who takes the SAT gets 4 free college score sets. That does not change. But income-eligible students who are taking the exam on a fee waiver get 4 additional opportunities to send their scores for every time they take the exam. So students on their first shot have to send their scores to 8 colleges and universities, receive 4 college application fee waivers, as well as being able to take the essay at no cost with the SAT 2 additional times. We're really serious about bridging these gaps in equity and access for all students across this country, as well as here in the state of Illinois particularly. This is a very, very important initiative on behalf of the College Board, and we are excited to work with many of you to make sure that the fee waivers get utilized to the highest extent possible. Online reporting. So I want to walk you through a little bit of what the student portal looks like, as well as the data portal for administrators and teachers. These new portals are brand new this year, and they provide more information and more data than we've ever had before. So I want to be able to give you a few screenshots of what each one looks like. But quickly, the student portal will allow students to see all of their exams that they've ever taken through the SAT suite of assessment in one place. So there's no searching around. All of their exams will be right there. They can directly link any of their scores directly into their Khan Academy account, should they choose to do so, to then update their academic learning plan with even more data and more information from these assessments. And a detailed question analysis is available for the disclosed versions of the exams. So, for example, if the student is taking the PSAT and MSQT this coming fall, let's say for an 11th grader, when they get the results back, they will be able to see in a digital version every single question of the exam that they just took, with an answer and explanation analysis for every question. Schools and districts. Counselors will have a full registration report in terms of students who are registered to take the SAT, but more importantly, they'll be able to see the actual score reports for every single student. So we'll still be mailing the score report to schools for the PSAT exams as well. However, if counselors want to be able to download every score report for a student, they'll have access to do that right away, right through the portal. You can review data in a multitude of ways, so I'm really excited to show you a little bit of what that looks like, and the reports that we have available to inform curriculum and instruction. So here's a snapshot of what we like to call the student dashboard. When students log into their College Board account, the exam that they just recently took will be the one that shows up right on top. So for example, here we see the PSAT and MSQT. You get the total score and a quick snapshot of their evidence-based reading, writing, and math score. On the top right-hand corner, this is where students can practice, send their scores directly to Khan Academy. They can search for scholarships on our Big Future website. They can see their own AP potential for courses that they may have qualified for, or indicating the potential that they can do that academic work in those particular courses. Or they can begin to send their scores to particular universities or colleges if it's the SAT. But you can see at the bottom that if the student had taken previous exams, they will all be right there. Students will be able to see their score. Let's say they look at the most recent one. So let's say that, for example, this is the PSAT and MSQT. But again, this is the same for all the assessments all across the board. They see their total score. They can see where they are in regard to benchmark, where their projected score would be on the next exam, their percentile rankings, and so on. Skills Insight. This has always been the really informative part of the student score report. On the left-hand side, it shows a student, if we look at the 2 columns, this is what a student knows how to do right now and has demonstrated this work on this particular assessment. On the right-hand side, improve your skills by focusing on are the things that students will really need to work on. Now, this is the way that we've always reported this information in a static form. That is why the connection to Khan Academy is so critically important. So when students are uploading or linking their scores in the Khan, if I'm improving my skills, let's say I'm working on 10, 11 questions, for example, in reading, maybe 7 or 8 are coming from the things that I really need to work on. So now we're targeting and providing questions and content related to where students really need to improve and grow. So now we're just not telling them on a static report, we're actually going to show them how to do that work, and here are the types of problems that are engaged at that level. But at the same time, we're going to actually throw in a couple of problems for the things that they already know how to do. So students don't forget to do the things that they already know how to do. So we can do that in both the reading, writing, language, and the math portion of the exam. The other thing that students will be able to see on a disclosed form of the exam is that they will see every single question of the exam that they just took. They will be able to see every question, how they scored, their performance, as well as a question and answer portion to that. So all the exams, all the paper copy report will now be in a digital format so students can better utilize the information that they have available to them. Educator reports. So here we can search by scores by institution. So you have multiple high schools in a particular school, or you're just a single high school district, you can begin, or middle school, you can begin to look at scores across schools or just your school as its own. You can see reports by administration, assessment, and grade, district state aggregate comparison information, and you can begin to really group students and look at students in meaningful ways. There will be no paper reports that will be sent by the College Board, because we want you to be able to look at the reports that are meaningful to you, as opposed to us telling you how it should be done. Now, we'll be providing trainings throughout the fall as well as into early spring 2017 once reports start to come back to really walk you through and how to use some of this data and work with organizations all across the state to highlight and showcase how to use the data reports. But it was important to us that not everything works for everyone, and be able to analyze information that's important to you should be done in a way that's meaningful to you. So we've moved all the reports in an online way, and I'll show you a little bit more of how you can function and use some of the data. Filters. This is really important. Since there's no paper, you don't have to cut and paste or look at pieces of information. You can look at the data that's important to you. If I'm really interested in thinking of where are my students on fee waivers, in math, in hard algebra, I can look at students in that way. And I can begin to then create customized lists and invite particular teachers or particular content specialists within my buildings or schools to look at the data in a meaningful way to help me think about and driving instruction and practice. If I'm thinking about setting meaningful goals as part of my school improvement process, I can look at this data and use it in such a way. You can look by gender across assessment, race and ethnicity, those students who have completed core curriculum. We can look by students who have taken the exam with accommodations, see where they are, and provide and continue to provide educational opportunities, and then some other information that students provide to us on the questionnaire. The instructional planning report. So now this is really the tool that we're providing back to educators to really help inform instructional practice. Great plan and a great tool to be used once the data starts to roll out. We'll be able to break down scores in a couple different metrics, if you will, from red, yellow, and green. Red is that students need to strengthen their skills. Perhaps could be almost a year behind to where they need to be, but we're going to highlight and show you where they are in that content. Yellow, they are approaching that benchmark. Again, the benchmark aligned to post-secondary readiness success to the SAT, and where their meets are exceeding that benchmark in green. We can begin to list students in each performance group, linked to state standards, aligned to subscores. So for every question that we'll be able to, there'll be a little question mark. So you can hover over every single question on the exam, and what will pop up are the standards related, the Illinois state standards related to that particular question. Now there may be lots of different standards connected to one question, H.R.1, so we've got a lot of numbers, but we can always expand that. And when you expand it, you can see that you'll be able to see the explanation to every single standard that is then connected to particular questions. So we've tried to take that out for you in terms of looking at the data from different sorts of, or excuse me, different reports, and we're able to now look at it in one meaningful way. You can then export all the files in a PDF and upload it into your data management system should you want to do that. So as we begin to close, let me talk to you a little bit about some of the dates that are available for 2016 and 17 this coming year. I'm still waiting on spring windows, so we'll get that published right away, but we do have the fall windows available, and I want to walk you through a little bit. So if we look at the PSAT 8-9, you'll see that the fall window opens September 26 and goes to January 27, 2017. A pretty large window of time for you to be able to assess students in a way that is meaningful to you. The spring window will overlap with the SAT should you want to provide similar assessments to those students on the SAT date. The PSAT NMSQT and the PSAT 10. The PSAT NMSQT 10 will be offered on October 19th, 2016. It's always the second or third Wednesday of every October, excuse me. We will have a Saturday administration as well as an alternate date. The alternate date isn't really a makeup date, it's really an alternate. So if you can't make the 16th work, or the 19th work, then you really want to choose that November 2nd date. Again, with the spring to be determined, but again, that date will also overlap with the SAT date. So SAT, March 2017, we'll have an option for March as well as for April. The April administration of the SAT is a disclosed version of the exam. So what does that mean? So for the first time, I believe, in history, you will actually be able to get back from administrators every single question and item that students took on that test date in your data portal. You'll be able to see every question, the performance on that question, but you can physically see that exam question with an answer explanation in detail. Now, if we embed that with some of the planning and instructional tools that we're providing, we're confident that we can provide more information and meaningful data aligned to standards and instruction to really begin to change the dynamic and support teachers as well as students in the classroom. The testing time. PSAT 8, 9, and just total testing time, without breaks, but just the total exam time, is 2 hours and 25 minutes. The PSAT NMSQT and PSAT 10, 2 hours and 45 minutes. And the SAT is 3 hours. The optional essay would be for students to take it on a National Administration Day. You'll see that the same 3 sections are across all 3 exams, and you'll be able to see what the score range looks like across all 3 exams. We're still measuring the same 3 tests, the reading, writing, language, and math, and the essay is only available on the actual SAT itself. What I've also provided are some resources for all of you to go through. And I've broken it down by 3 main constituency groups. So, administrators. The test specification document, that entire blueprint or the guts of the exam that I talked to you about, about 216 pages of wonderful reading, or if you need to go to bed, it could put you to sleep. But really great reading about the entire inner workings of the exam, from the research methodology to the number of questions on the exam, the percentage of the questions of the exam, how it all comes together. We've made completely transparent for the last 2 years. So that's the test specification document. There's using scores for reporting to inform instruction, really guidance in interpreting the scores that students receive and how you can use that in the classroom as well as within your school. SAT practice exams are available, 4 full-length practice exams, the same ones available in Khan Academy. Sample SAT questions available, as well as the details on Khan Academy and student support and how you go about the linking. And we've provided some videos also on how to link accounts on YouTube and our College Board YouTube site. Teachers. We've developed the teacher implementation guide to the SAT, which we hope will be incredibly important to all of you. Feel free to download the PDF, feel free to share it and use it as much as you possibly can. But really talks about the components of the SAT, the skills, the content, but really with teachers in mind as we develop this guide. Professional development modules. So all the key changes that we've talked about on the SAT, words in context, command of evidence, the subscores in math, we've now created specific professional development modules that you can download and use. And if you're doing this, let's say you're an instructional specialist or a coach within your particular building, we've even broken down the time frame. So if you only have 25 minutes, here is the most important content that you need to cover. If you have 50 minutes, 60 minutes, or if you have the full 90 minutes, here are all the things you want to cover as well as some tools to walk you through. But the professional development modules, if you really want to dive deep into Passport to Advanced Mathematical topics or what exactly are we looking at in algebra, you'll be able to find all that content there built as a professional PD model. There's sample PSAT score reports to get an idea of what these reports look like, and lesson plans as well to use the data once you get it back. And counselors. So we developed the teacher implementation guide as well as a counselor implementation guide. What are the things that counselors need to be able to talk to parents and students about what this exam is, how does it work, all the content that we just covered in a way that's easy and accessible for counselors to be able to talk to parents about. SAT and college admissions. So can we answer all those questions? Every single college in the state of Illinois will accept the SAT exam. Just because students haven't been taking it for a number of years doesn't mean that college admissions folks don't understand how to use those scores. That's what they do. This is important to them. And my colleagues on the higher education side of things have been meeting and working with colleges and universities all throughout the state on the changes of the redesign and how they're going to use it. There hasn't been a single college or university that has told us that they will not use the SAT as part of admissions. They need to adapt and learn some new features, but it doesn't mean anything in terms of a game changer for them. And students should be very comfortable comfortable and confident when taking the SAT and applying to schools, that the SAT will be widely accepted. We provide a counselor's guide to the fee waivers. So how do you go about requesting the SAT fee waivers or fee waivers for the PSAT and MSQT for 11th grade students only? How do you go about doing that? What's the process? We provide some guidance along that line. SAT fee waiver guidelines for families to make sure that the appropriate students are receiving the benefits entitled to them. And then getting ready for the SAT. What are the sorts of things that students need to be able to do, practice skills, strategies, those sorts of things. These aren't test-taking skills or strategies in the sense of trying to game an exam, because there's nothing to game. We've made everything as open and transparent as public. So this is really about understanding the design of the exam, how to feel comfortable with the exam, and being best prepared to do it. I sincerely appreciate your time today to allow me to explain a little bit about the College Board, why we decided to go about this endeavor of redesigning and changing the entire assessment system, about connecting students to opportunities, that for the first time ever, assessment and opportunity no longer have to be mutually exclusive ideas, to connect all students with opportunities that they deserve via the fee waivers, college application fee waivers, and providing students information and guidance towards scholarships and other sorts of opportunities available to them. We are really, really excited for this opportunity here in the state of Illinois. Again, my name is Hoor Bhanpuri. I am the Executive Director for the Illinois Partnership, leading this initiative in the state, and I look forward to working with many of you in the years to come. Thank you.